Hello, my name is Denny Creehan. Currently I'm coaching at Arkansas State University, and I'm here to talk to you today about the wing T, one of the most prolific offenses in the country, by far the most popular offense among high school coaches in this country. In today's topic, I will be dealing with practice plan. I want to mention to you about practice plan is that the plays that you can get from the playbook are simply just plays until you really learn how to coach them. When I first started using the wing T in 1979, we learned the plays. We learned the rules for the plays, we learned the blocking schemes, we learned who got the ball in what hole and how you block different defenses and so forth. But what really makes these plays work is how you coach them. The little techniques and the little details and the little fine points are what really make the plays go. Now, I can tell you that as a coach, when I first started running this offense at Edinboro University, we started out and we were a good football team running the wing T, but we weren't a great one. After we had the opportunity to have John D'Ottavio, a man who had played and coached for 25 straight years in the wing T. We had him as a member of our staff, and he had had the chance to work at Delaware at one time and coach for some other head coaches that had been at Delaware. John gave us a lot of the details for the practice plan that we didn't have before he got there. And when we started using this particular practice plan, our offense exploded. It went from a good offense to a great offense. As a matter of fact, it was one of the top-ranked offenses in the United States in all divisions combined for years, and ever since then has been that good. And we really credit the development of the offense to those details and those little fine coaching points. And so the wing T practice plan is probably the most vital part of the whole thing. And a lot of coaches would tend to overlook the practice plan in favor of trying to learn new plays, new schemes, and so forth. But the wing T practice plan is absolutely the most important part of the whole teaching progression. And I will say this to you, a wing T coach, because of the detail, because of the organization, because of the way they practice with the philosophy that they use, the wing T coaches can adapt to any other system much easier than coaches from other systems can adapt to the wing T. And it's simply because of the amount of detail and the amount of learning and the amount of specific coaching that we try to use in the wing T offense. Okay, as we discuss our practice plan today, I want to talk to you about the practice plan that we have specifically used and a little nickname that we've given to our practice plan. We've come to call our practice plan the racehorse practice. In other words, we use what we call a racehorse practice philosophy. And to define that, it simply means that we are going to go fast. We're going to get a lot of reps in whatever amount of time that we have, we're going to get maximum reps. So our wing T racehorse practice plan philosophy is designed to get maximum reps. Now, I know a lot of coaches say that. You hear coaches talk all the time about how many reps they get and how they go fast in practice. And that may be true to those coaches who haven't been exposed to a kind of practice plan like this. But when you see the wing T practice plan done with a racehorse philosophy, it is amazing just how many reps that you can actually get. And to give you an example, I can tell you that in the final team period of training camp last year, we got 120 reps in a 45-minute period. Now, there aren't many coaches that can do that. We shoot for 3 reps a minute in team period. We don't always get 3 reps per minute. In fact, we probably hardly ever do, but we always get more than 2 reps per minute in a team period. And there aren't a lot of people that can say that. I know I coached in pro football for a lot of years, and we used to plan for 1 rep per minute in a team period. Our wing T racehorse practice philosophy, we shoot for 3, and we will probably get somewhere around 2.5 reps per minute, which is really moving fast. And that's what the wing T racehorse practice plan philosophy is all about. We're designed to get maximum reps, and we have a number of different ways that we can do that, a number of different concepts that we built into our practice plan. And let's take a look at the overhead, and I'll go through some of these with you so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, here you see an outline of what we mean by racehorse philosophy, and again, it's designed to get maximum reps. And the first concept I want to talk to you about is we tell our players, and especially our coaches, that talking is for meetings. We do not want you to earn your doctoral dissertation on our practice field. We want you to do your talking in your meeting. Now, we have pre-practice meetings every day, and these pre-practice meetings will last anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. And whatever material needs to be covered on that field for that particular day will be covered in those meetings. Now, number 2 here is directed basically to the players, and we tell the players that they must concentrate in those meetings. They must keep up, because we're going to go fast, and we're not going to wait for them. We're not going to let any individual hold us back. We're going to go fast. During training camp, we'll introduce 3 or 4 concepts per day. And those players have got to learn those concepts, and they've got to stay with us. They can't forget what they learned on day 1 when we go to day 2. They've got to keep up with us. The next concept that we try to stress to our players is that communication breaks down on the part of the listener. And so what that means to us is that when they walk into our meetings, they are the listener. We're the speaker. We know what we're trying to get across to them. Communication has to take place, and for that to take place, the listener must be focused on what the speaker is talking about. So because of that, we have a certain behavior that we like to have present in our meetings, and that is simply this. Our players must be there on time, and on time to us is early. And that means that they're in the room before the meeting starts, so that when the meeting starts, we can begin on time, and we don't have to wait for guys to filter in late and disrupt what we're trying to get done. It also means to us that we want the players not to visit with each other at that time. They can do that after practice in the locker room. They need to have their eyes focused on the speaker. If I can make eye contact with the people that are listening to me, then I think there's a chance for communication to take place. If they're looking at me, at least there's a chance. Now, they may not hear everything I say, and they may be daydreaming, they may be focused somewhere else, but if they're looking at me, we've got a chance. Now, if they're looking down at the ground, no chance. If they're looking up in the air, no chance. If they're sleeping or visiting with their friends, no chance. There's no chance for communication to occur there. So we're fairly strict about our meetings just in terms of making sure that communication takes place. We're not trying to be drill sergeants or military people or anything like that, but we do want concentration to take place. And we do not allow our players to wear hats in meetings, only because when the hat is pulled down over the eyes, it's tough for the speaker to know if the listener is making eye contact with him. If he can't see his eyes, we don't know if communication is taking place or not. So we'll allow them to wear hats to a meeting, but when they go to the meeting, while the meeting's going on, they take the hat off, and then they can put it back on when the speaker is done trying to communicate with them. That's a very important concept. It's got to be stressed in meetings. Number 4 through number 8 deal with actually what happens out on the practice field. Number 4, we talk about shifting as a big part of the wing T offense, and obviously that shifting has to be practiced. Now, you know, you have formations, you have lots of different formations, you have lots of different motions, and then you throw in lots of different shifts, and that really helps you to break down recognition by the defense. So shifting is a big part of our offense, and it's an important part, but it's not a part of our offense that we want to spend inordinate amounts of time practicing. So we have a period to start every single practice that's called team takeoff. And we'll introduce team takeoff at first, and we'll get the concept of team takeoff stressed to our players. And once they learn what that team takeoff period is all about, then we'll add the element of shifting to the team takeoff period. After that team takeoff period is over, we will not shift again during practice. And team takeoff is usually a 5-minute drill, and I will show you how it's organized here in a minute. And in that 5 minutes, we get a lot of reps on shifting, and then we don't have to worry about shifting for the rest of the practice. Occasionally, we will mix some shifts into team period, but it would have to be a special shift with a special type of timing that needs worked on with all 11 people there at the same time. Otherwise, we'll do our shifting in team takeoff period. That saves time. That allows us to go faster, and that allows us to get more reps. Number 5 deals with the coaches. And we would like our coaches to be able to make short, meaningful, quick corrections. Now, what does that mean? Again, we don't want our coaches to have to earn their doctoral dissertation by giving a huge coaching clinic on the field every time some player makes a technique error. No, those are the types of things that you correct in a meeting. When you're watching film of practice, you see a player make a technical error, you can stop the film, turn the lights on, demonstrate the correct technique, and make sure the player knows exactly what he's doing. Otherwise, on the field, when this player makes a technical error, the way to correct him was with a short, meaningful correction. The coach should have something that means something to that player. He says something quick, something short, but it's also something meaningful, and the player would immediately realize what he did wrong and be able to correct it the next time he does it, once he hears what the coach has to say to him. Number 6, and this is really important, and I see this over and over again. I see a lot of players, or especially a lot of coaches, a lot of coaches chase players around the field to make corrections with them. We don't do that. Our philosophy is you stay in a centralized location as a coach. When your players finish with whatever drill they're doing or whatever rep they happen to be working on, they run past you for corrections. Now, by staying in a centralized location, you as a coach are able to focus on a greater number of your players. We really feel like when you get good at coaching this offense, you can see all 11 players. You really can. If you stay in a centralized location, you know the play before the ball's snapped, you know what to anticipate and what to expect, you know what the defense is, you can almost see all 11 players. For sure, as a position coach, you can see your 5 linemen, or you can see your 3 running backs. Certainly you can see 1 quarterback. So we feel like by staying in a centralized location, you can see better, the players will run past you for corrections, and certainly we do not want a coach to chase players into a huddle to find that player to make a correction back there. Now we've had to wait and waste time waiting for the coach to come back to watch the next group go. We won't do that. We shotgun huddles during our team period. In other words, one huddle is up on the ball, they run a play. As soon as that play is nearing its completion, the second huddle is breaking. They're saying ready, break, and they're already sprinting up to the line of scrimmage, getting ready to run the next play. Our practice goes fast, bang, bang, bang. Like I told you, we're shooting for 3 reps per minute during team periods, and we want as maximum reps as we can get. So therefore, the coach needs to stay in a centralized location, make the players run past him for corrections. He can give a quick correction to a player who's on his way back to a huddle and still be in a position to be able to see the next rep of practice as it takes place. So don't chase players around in huddles, and don't make your team waste time because of you as a coach. The next 2 concepts, number 7, we say mass teach. Now, what does mass teach mean? Well, that means simply this. A player does a lot more and learns a lot more by doing than he does by watching. So we structure as many drills as possible in our wing tee practice so that every player is doing the drill at the same time. When we work on our shoulder skill period or our routine period or our blocking technique periods with our offensive linemen, if there's 15 offensive linemen on the team, all 15 guys do the drill. and they all do it at the same time. Now, is the coach going to be able to see all 15 guys? Well, it's not the easiest thing when they first start out, and they probably won't, but they'll get used to it. And again, if they stay in a centralized location, they'll be able to see a larger amount of players or a larger number of players, and they'll be able to widen their vision to see a whole group. So that's really important. Now, right beside Mass Teach, I have cross-train. Another thing that we do is we teach all players all techniques. So if you're a running back, you're going to learn all the techniques. If you play fullback, you're going to learn how to run in three-step motion and one-step motion just like the halfbacks do. If you're an offensive guard, you're going to learn how to pull on tackle trap like the tackles do. If you're an offensive tackle, you'll learn the sweep techniques and the waggle techniques like the guards do. So everybody gets cross-trained. Well, what does that do for you as a coach? If your sixth best offensive lineman is your backup left tackle, but all of a sudden your offensive right guard gets hurt, well, you want your 5 best players on the field at the same time. So if you take one of those 5 out, naturally you want the 6th best guy in so that, again, you have your 5 best available to you on the field. Well, that left tackle, if he's never done any of the techniques that the right guard has to use, it's going to be awful tough for him to flip over and play guard in a game. Well, in the wing T, we train everybody to learn all the techniques. That way, all they have to do is brush up on assignments for that particular week's plays. And we can have our next best player battle ready and ready to go by the following week. Now, if an injury occurs mid-game, you might have to finish that game with the backup, even though he might not be your next best player. But that's why he's practicing in that spot, and you've got to be able to have confidence in him that he will finish the game and do you a good job. And then the following week, you can get your next best guy ready to play in that spot. So that's the real advantage for cross-training. Number 8 on here, as I've already mentioned, is 2 huddles, and for every one of our drills, whether we're in group or in team, we're going to shotgun 2 huddles. And by shotgunning 2 huddles, again, I'm talking about as soon as one huddle runs a play, the next huddle is saying ready, break, and sprinting up to the line of scrimmage so that they're on the ball ready to go as soon as the defense is ready, and we can get maximum reps during that practice. And that's basically a rundown, a wrap-up on the racehorse philosophy. This is what it means to us, and these are just some notes. Now, what I'd like to do next is I'd like to show you the exact wing T practice plan that we use. And then I'm going to show you each one of the drills and how we set them up, and I'll show you how we try to get maximum reps out of the whole thing. The next concept I'd like to talk about really is just our practice plan. And as you look at the overhead, you will see that there isn't anything revolutionary on here. Our practice plan is set up probably like a lot of people's are in terms of what we're going to try to cover throughout a day's practice and how we progress through it. As you look at the overhead, I have loosening and kicking written by themselves because as a coach, you're going to decide to loosen up your team however you want. Some people like to do stretching, some people like to do form running. Lots of people have different philosophies on how to loosen up your team to get them warmed up and ready to go for practice. Kicking is a period that we think is obviously extremely important, and we're going to work on kicking in every one of our practices. But as a high school coach or as a college coach, you may decide that your kicking period is some other place or whatever. So, I mean, those are things that are really up to individual coaches and really don't pertain to the wing T practice plan per se. The wing T practice plan takes over right after the loosening and kicking, and our progression and the way we progress through practice is as follows. Number 1, we'll go to team takeoff period, as I mentioned already. And that's going to do a couple of things for us. First of all, it gets us screaming off the ball. It sets the tempo for the day's practice. The first thing we do is we're coming off on the ball and we're sprinting. We're getting off on cadence. We're reacting to the quarterback's cadence, and we are firing off that football and we're sprinting. It's not a long drill. It's not a long sprint, but it does establish tempo right off the bat. We want to see these guys, after they're loosened up and after we've done some kicking, we want to see them jump into the practice plan with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy, and right off the bat, we're going to start off by getting off the ball. Then after a while, we're going to mix the shifting into here. So it'll slow down the reps just a little bit, but it'll be well worth it because our shifts will be practiced and we'll be sharp with them and we'll be quick with them, and we'll be able to shift in a game and do it without making mistakes. And also our linemen now get used to the quarterback's cadences when we get into the shifts, and they learn to be a little bit more patient in their stance, but then we still fire off and get off on the ball. So it's a great way to start practice, good up-tempo drill, and also it takes care of shifting for you. Next we go to individual period, and I have another overlay here that I'm going to show you all the things that we do in individual, and I'll go to that next. But that's really where the nuts and bolts of the wing tee get taught. All the little details and all the coaching is done during those individual periods. And we tell our coaches when we get a new coach, that's the number one most important thing he has to worry about is his individual period. The coordinators and the head coach and the experienced coaches that have been around for a while, they'll take care of the game planning and the thinking and the planning and all those kinds of things. All these individual coaches have to do is know their position and all the little fine details that go into the coaching their position. They've got to do a great job in those individual periods. After the individual comes what we call mixed group work. And mixed group work is simply different groups on the team working together. We have two different types of mixed group work drills. The first one, obviously, are run drills, and the second one are passing drills. Well, in our run drills, we concentrate basically on two types of run drills. One is an internal drill. Some people call it inside drill. I've heard it called lots of different names, but internal drill is basically the linemen and the backs working against the interior of the defense. Perimeter drill now is our receivers and our backs working against the linebackers and secondary of the defense. And again, I have diagrams for all these periods so I can show you exactly how they're set up. When we get to passing drills, we use probably the same two passing drills that most everybody uses. Our linemen are involved in what we call a live pass rush period or a live pass protection period, and that's the defensive line and probably some linebackers working on live pass rush against the offensive line. And here's where the guys get to learn their protection techniques and get battle tested at those techniques. And at the other end of the field, we'll have what we call pass skeleton going on, which we simply refer to as skelly. And this will be the receivers and backs with the quarterbacks working on pass patterns against the defensive backs and linebackers who work on their coverages at that time. The next types of drills that we do are 11-on-11 drills, and the first one is along the lines of our pass drills, and we call it pass under pressure. And we're going to do this at least once every week during game season and probably once every day or two during training camp and spring football. Pass under pressure is 11-on-11. The ball is definitely going to be thrown. It's a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7 type situation, and the defense has a chance to pin their ears back and just take off and pass rush. We encourage them to run their blitzes, to run their twists, anything they want to bring at us. We've got to get used to having the confidence that we can drop back and throw the ball as an offense and not have to worry about the quarterback being sacked every play. We need to have confidence that we can protect that quarterback versus the most heat our defense can possibly throw up there against us. And that's what pass under pressure is all about. Last but not least, we have our 11-on-11 drills where we're going to mix it up. And we do this in 3 different ways. We'll go 11-on-11 versus bags. And what we'll do is we'll have defensive kids hold those big, heavy 150-pound bags, and we'll come off and we'll block those bags. And these are the kinds of things that we do when we're in shorts or T-shirts or something where we can't block full go live and really can't get down on people's legs and block their bodies and so forth. And it's amazing how much good work you can get as an offense just going against these bags. Just having kids stand out there and hold the bags. You put the bags in the spacing that the defense is going to be in for that particular week, and your kids get to really do a lot of mental work, a lot of timing work, and really it's great work offensively. It's a good drill, it's up-tempo, it's enthusiastic, it gives the kids confidence that they know their assignments, helps the backs find running lanes and so forth, and it's a good drill. The second way we do 11-on-11 is versus bodies. During the season, we use scout team players, red shirt players, and so forth to be these bodies. And when I say bodies, it's not a demeaning sense. This means that we're actually going to block a body. There's not going to be a bag there. We're not going to protect ourselves in any way with some kind of extra shielding or bags or whatever. There are 11 people on defense. There are 11 people on offense. All 22 are wearing full pads. And now this blocking is live blocking. We're coming off the ball. We're going to block these people. They're going to defeat the blocks if they can, and we're going to work on our plays. Now, in this particular type of drill, we do not allow the defense to tackle the backs. What we tell the defense to do is defeat the block, sprint to the football, and just tag off on the back. And that way we do a couple of things. Number one, we don't get the backs beat up, or the backs. We don't get them beat up. They take enough contact during games. They're the people that get tackled to the ground. And when you start taking people to the ground, there's going to be pals on the ground, there's going to be people on your legs, and your chances for injury go way up. And of course, we want to keep our injury rates way down. And so this is a great way to execute practice. You still get to see which linemen are executing their blocks. You get to see the run lanes for the backs, but the backs don't have to get taken to the ground. In fact, we emphasize extra hard to stay up and stay off the ground. So when the defense can get to the ball carrier and can make the tackle, they run right by him, they tap the ball carrier, and there's no injury factor here. And that also tells us as coaches who missed the block. We can see which player is showing up all the time. Maybe our blocking scheme is not holding up and we need to re-examine it. Maybe one of our players is not holding up and we need to re-examine him. But that's 11 on 11 versus bodies. And of course, the final way we do 11 on 11 is live scrimmage. Now, no matter where I've been, I've always had a saying that my team's not on my schedule next fall. So if I'm coaching at Central High School, then I'm going to emphasize to my players that Central High School is not on our schedule next fall. We don't get any points for killing ourselves. So we don't want to be all beat up and limping into games just to say we practiced hard. We can practice very hard, get a lot done, keep the injury rates down low, and still be hard and be ready for the battle and be ready for the game when the game comes. So the amount of scrimmaging that we do in my program is very little. We'll do 2 big scrimmages in preseason fall camp. We'll do 3 big scrimmages in spring football. And other than that, we won't scrimmage very much at all. We're just going to save our bullets for game day. We're going to practice hard and physical during the week, but we're not going to take backs to the ground, and we'll seldom do scrimmaging during the week. Maybe a few goal line plays to spice up practice once in a while, maybe a few 3rd and long plays, but basically we're not going to scrimmage very much in our program. We're going to save those hits for game day. That I'm going to show you is, again, what we call team takeoff period. Now, that's a lot of lines on a diagram. You're going to have to bear with me so you can see what happens here. Team takeoff period is done this way. We have one offense on the left hash mark. We have another offense on the right hash mark. And they can run the same play or they can run mirrored plays. Okay? The ball is placed on the 10-yard line. And the team on the cadence will fire off the ball. The backs will run their play pattern, but the linemen and the receivers are simply going to just fire off the ball and come off low, hard, explode out of their stance, and sprint across that goal line past a coach who's standing in the corner over here and another coach who's standing over in the corner here. And those coaches are standing at the goal line, and we want to see those players sprint through that goal line and get the feeling of really exploding out of their stance and coming off the ball. If there are 3rd and 4th teams, we will have them in huddles back here behind the 1st and 2nd teams. And when the 1st and 2nd team finish exploding, coming off the ball and running through the end zone, the 3rd and 4th teams then would break their huddle, and now they would sprint up to the 10-yard line, and they would be ready to go. We have a coach back here who's usually our offensive coordinator, and this coach will tell the players what the play is going to be and what the shift is going to be if we're going to shift. But basically that's it. It's one of the early parts of practice. We do it for tempo. We do it for coming off the ball with some enthusiasm and exploding out of our stance, and certainly we mix our shifting into this period. That's basically all team takeoff is. It's 11 on 11, or that's 11 on air, basically, and it could be 22 on air if you want. And we like to have 2 groups go at the same time. We'll go on one quarterback's cadence. We'll say, okay, You guys on the left side, you run 187 cross block, and you guys on the right side, you run 983 cross block. And both of you groups, you go on the quarterback who's on the left hash mark, you go on his cadence. So there'll be one cadence being barked out and 22 players focused in on that quarterback's cadence. When that ball is snapped, all 22 of those players explode off the ball into the end zone, and the backs will run their play pattern. As they get the ball, they explode into the end zone. And that's simply team takeoff period. It's a 5-minute period. We don't expect very much more than that, but we can get a lot of reps in 5 minutes. You'll be amazed at how many reps we get in 5 minutes on team takeoff. And when we add the shifting in there, obviously the reps will go down a little bit, but the number of reps will still be good enough to get the point across, good enough to get all our shifts practiced, and still good enough to get our team off on the ball and starting out the practice with some good tempo. Next I have a list of our individual period, and each group in individual and exactly what they do during their periods. Now, like I said earlier, when we go to individual period, this is the most important time on our practice plan. This is where the quarterback coach must coach the details of playing quarterback. And these little details are what make the offense go. And this is the time to coach those little details. Now we have quarterbacks, that's one practice group. We have running backs, that's another practice group. We have our ends, including our tight end and our spread end, which is a third practice group. And then we have our offensive line, which is our fourth practice group. Underneath each of these positions, I have listed the activities that take place during our individual periods. We try to get all of these activities done every single day. There may be times when we have to scratch one or two of them in the interest of conserving time, but we would rather have each drill present and shrink the number of minutes for that drill as opposed to eliminating a drill. These drills start out early in the year. There's much longer amounts of time given to each drill. But as the year progresses, those time periods will shorten down. The players need less explanation. They just need the reps, and they maybe need some coaching detail, but there should be a lot less explanation on how the drills are done. All right, let's start with the quarterbacks, and let's talk about the things that the quarterbacks do in their practice. And again, I have each of these things diagrammed for you, and I will show them to you as we work through these practice plans. All right, the first thing that the quarterbacks do is they do loosening. And at first, we'll start out with a good 5-minute period of loosening. And a quarterback normally needs to loosen his arm for at least that amount of time. Now, they do arm loosening drills, but these are also drills that we can coach technique in. For instance, even though the quarterbacks may be just play and catch with each other to loosen their arms, there are some things that you can coach those quarterbacks to be doing. Proper foot placement, proper throwing mechanics, just a number of things that we can work on in those loosening drills. And basically, they are simply arm loosening drills. And the quarterbacks will play catch with each other. They'll play catch with one quarterback running forward and the other quarterback running backwards to simulate throwing on the run. They'll play catch with one quarterback running in place, and then he has to throw the ball to a stationary quarterback, and that's an accuracy drill. We'll work on quick grip type drills where the quarterbacks are down on one knee, and they've got to get the ball from the ground up to a passing position as quickly as possible and then deliver the ball to their target. So there are a number of different arm loosening drills that we do. As a coach, you probably have many arm loosening drills that you do with your quarterbacks, but that's what we're doing at the beginning of the quarterback practice. The next thing that the quarterbacks do is go to what we call hand up. Now this is a wing T term for the quarterback center exchange. We call it a hand up because it's a little bit different. The way we coach it in our offense is maybe a little bit different than the way a lot of people coach the center quarterback exchange. I can tell you this, the absolute best offensive lineman that we have is going to be our center. Our number one offensive lineman is our center. We want to be just like a baseball team. We want to build strength down the middle. Our center, our quarterback, our fullback, those are our best players in those positions. And we build that strength from inside out. So our center is going to be the best line athlete that we have. He may never have snapped at one time in his life. But we feel very confident that we can teach him our center quarterback exchange, our method for executing the snap or the hand up, and we feel like with the correct amount of reps and all the reps that we get in our racehorse practice philosophy, he's going to be very adept at snapping the ball, and we have very few fumbled snaps. I can remember years where we went a whole season and had no fumbled snaps with the '1 quarterback, and that's phenomenal. Nothing is more demoralizing to a team than to drive down the field and lose a drive or even lose possession of the football because of a fumbled snap. And I see it over and over again. I see it at the pro level, the college level, the high school level, and it really is something that you can control as a coach and you can eliminate. So our hand-up technique is different. We bring the ball straight up. We don't turn the ball to the side, and we have the quarterbacks quarter turn their hand so that the ball comes up in the fat of the hand, or the fat of the ball comes up in the hand between the thumb and the forefinger. The quarterback takes the ball like that, snaps it immediately to his belt, and brings the left hand into play as a security blanket for the snap. Basically, our quarterback can take all the snaps one-handed. Shouldn't have to use the second hand in their snap drill. And once they can get proficient at grasping that concept, when they put the second hand in there, of course, the confidence level in their mind rises tremendously, and we have very few fumbled snaps, even with new centers. All right, the next part of the quarterback practice plan, and after hand-ups, really, the rest of the quarterback practice plan is done with the running backs and in some cases even with the ends, okay? And again, I have all these drills drawn up, and I will show them to you here as we progress through the plan. The next drill that the quarterbacks do is handoffs, where they hand the ball to the running backs. Okay, and these are simply handoff plays. They're plays where the quarterback takes the snap, takes his footwork to the ball carrier, hands the ball carrier the football, and executes whatever fake he might have to make. It's simply those plays. All right, and they're practiced in stations so that we have one station where the fullbacks are receiving handoffs and other stations where the halfbacks are receiving handoffs. Pitch drills are option plays, and these are plays where we'll work with a quarterback, a fullback, and a halfback, and we will work option plays. In these drills, the quarterbacks are paired with each other, and we tell the quarterbacks to give each other a pitch or a keep read. As they're practicing the option, we want those quarterbacks to challenge each other more so than they'll get challenged in a game. Make it hard on each other in that practice so the game is actually easy. The next part of the quarterback practice plan is full backfield technique. We will have the entire backfield there, all the running backs and the quarterback, and we will work on technique for specific plays. Now, which ones do we decide on? Well, basically the ones that need cleaned up, ones where maybe you're having some problems executing, you need some extra work at them. Anything you feel needs to be perfected goes in that particular period. The next part of his practice plan is what we call passing with ends. So in that period, the ends, the tight ends and the split ends, along with all the running backs, will come down to the quarterback area on the field, and they will work on pass routes either as a group or individually, and they're basically what a lot of people call routes versus air. That's basically what that drill is. And then the final part of his practice is four corners and waggle drill. And four corners is a passing drill. It's a one-on-one type of a drill where our receivers go against our defensive backs one-on-one and the quarterbacks throw them the ball. The other part of that is that some quarterbacks during that period will go down with our offensive linemen and work on waggle drill, which I will show you in a little bit. Okay, and that's the quarterback's individual practice plan. There are 7 different drills that the quarterbacks are going to go through during their individual practice plan. Okay, and as I said earlier, we would like them to do all 7 drills every day, even if you have to shorten the time periods down, rather than throw one of the drills out. Okay, now let's move to the running back practice plan. The running backs are going to start their individual practice plan with what we call shoulder skills. This is their blocking technique period. When they do shoulder skills, and I'll show you this on a diagram, you'll notice that the ends are doing shoulder skills, and so are the offensive linemen doing shoulder skills. The only people not doing shoulder skills are our quarterbacks. They're doing their arm loosening drills at that time. Okay, but everybody else on our field will be doing those shoulder skills. Now, these are drills where our people will get down in a 2-point or a 6-point stance, and they'll actually learn the fundamentals of how to execute a block. And we start that right with the barest beginning stages. I mean, we get them down in a 6-point stance and we fit them into a bag, and that's the first thing that they do, is just learn how to fit. We fit them into the bag as if the drill has been done, and they have just finished the drill, and we want to show them how they fit in, how the drill looks as it's finished. That's the first part. The second part of the drill is what we call strike a blow. And again, we're down in a 6-point stance, and now we're going to explode on the bag, knock the bag off of a line, and finish the drill and hold the finish so that the coach can check to see if they've finished the drill like they were as we fitted them into the drill. We want that finish to look just like that fit. The third step in this progression is what we call step and hit, and this is where we learn the concept of stepping with the foot opposite the shoulder we're going to block with. In other words, if we're going to block with our right shoulder, we will always take a short step with the left foot. So if we block with the left shoulder, we're going to take a short step with the right foot. It's called opposition. You walk in opposition, we'll block in opposition as well. When you walk as just a normal person walking down the street, if you step with your left foot or with your right foot, then your right arm naturally swings back behind you and your left arm naturally swings forward, and vice versa as you walk. You don't step with the same foot and have the same arm going forward as you walk. That's unnatural. So we learn the opposition concept in our blocking as well. If we're going to block with the right shoulder, our first step will be with the left foot. It'll be a short step where the heels replace the toes, but it will be what we call kind of a brace step. It's a short step, and then the next step is where contact occurs, and now you have same foot, same shoulder action, same leg, same shoulder action. So as you make contact with the defender, you have tremendous force striking that defender because the shoulder and the foot on that side are coming all at the same time. And then the final part is to run and hit, where we simulate blocking a linebacker 4 yards away from us. We actually take off and we run, and then we execute the block techniques from there. So shoulder skills include those 4 drills, and I'll be back to those in a minute. The next thing that we do is what we call routine period. And you'll notice while the quarterbacks again are doing the hand-ups, the center quarterback exchange, everyone else on the field is doing what we call our routine period. And routine period is simply this: it's a footwork period. It's a period where, first of all, we work on our stance. We're going to make sure our players understand a good stance and what it looks like. We don't ever want to give up on the concept of the fundamental of a stance. As soon as your stance starts to break down, so will your technique. So we're going to work on making sure that they have a good stance every day. Then the next thing we do is a drill we call bird dog, which is nothing more than a first step and hold it drill. And you know as a coach, how many times do you see a guy miss a block, and he missed a block because of his very first step? That first step is absolutely the most critical step that we take. So when we work our little bird dog drill, we're going to take that first step and we're going to hold it. And we're going to make sure that the step is with the correct foot, in the correct direction, with the correct technique, and we're also going to make sure that our chest is down on our thighs and we have good opposite arm leg action. Our butt is over our heels so we're not overextended, and we have a good base under us. All those fundamentals we're looking for in that very first step. Every kind of step that we take, a straight ahead step, a 45-degree step, a 90-degree step, a pull step, any kind of step that we take is practiced in that bird dog drill. Then the third part of that is what we call takeoff. Now we're going to incorporate taking the first step, but not stepping and holding, but taking off and sprinting. And in our takeoff drill, they'll sprint for 5 yards and then decelerate for 5 yards and then turn around and come back with the other foot. So if we're going to work on a straight ahead step, we'll say take off, straight ahead, right foot on sound. And we'll tell them, okay, that's the foot that you're going to step with. Coach says, set, all the linemen take off, and they're sprinting straight ahead, but they take off with the right foot stepping straight ahead first. So now you're incorporating your bird dog drill with your takeoff drill. The last part of this for the backs is where we practice going in motion. 1-step motion, 3-step motion, those kind of things. But for the ends and the linemen, it's an 11-step pulling drill where they learn the techniques of pulling and then turning upfield to execute a block. And I'll go through those drills with you in a little while. Now again, as we look at the running back practice, you'll notice that the running back practice from after routine period through the rest of the practice will mirror the quarterback practice plan, because now the running backs and the quarterbacks will be working together. Okay, so those drills that the running backs do are the same ones that I just explained to you the quarterbacks are doing. They'll work handoff period, they'll work pitch drill, which is our option plays, they'll work full backfield technique, which are plays that require any type of perfecting or cleaning up or whatever. Then we go to passing with ends, and so now you'll have the quarterbacks, the running backs, and the ends working on routes versus air. And then finally they go to four corners and pass pro drill, and this is a little different. You'll notice some of the backs go to four corner drill, as do some of the quarterbacks, but some of them go to a pass pro drill, which I'll show you a little later. And this is a drill where the running backs get to work on pass protecting against linebackers who might be blitzing. They got to know how to execute blitz pickup in the passing game, and this is where they perfect the techniques in that area. Okay, next is the ends. And you'll notice our ends, or our receivers, whichever term you prefer to use, their first two periods in their practice are the same as the backs and the linemen. They're going to start out with shoulder skills, and they're going to start out with and go next to routine. After the shoulder skills and routine, our ends will go to blocking technique period. And we want, especially our wide receivers, our spread ends, we want them to understand that yes, they were recruited for the great athleticism that they have. They're speed guys, they have great hands, they're great skilled people, they can do wonderful things with the ball when they're in open space, but they're not going to play if they're not willing to block. Because everybody we recruit is going to be a special guy with the ball in his hands. We're not going to recruit anybody that's not real good as a wide receiver and can't do real good things when he gets the ball in his hands. They can all do that. So who's going to play in the game? Well, the guy that's going to play out there on Saturday is the guy that's unselfish, the guy that's willing to be a team player, and the guy that's willing to make a block. They have to block. And you'll notice that the first thing they do, even though they're wide receivers or whatever, they get down in a 6-point stance and they do shoulder skills. They're going to be team players and they have to learn how to block. So blocking technique period now, how is that different than shoulder skills? Well, blocking technique period is their specific blocks. Their stock block, their crack block, their cutoff block. Whatever blocks we deem that they have to be proficient at, those are the times that they'll work on those blocks. All right, the next drill that the ends will do is releases. And this is very important, because if you're going to throw the ball and a defense can climb right up in your face and jam you at the line of scrimmage, jam you at the line of scrimmage, not letting you off the ball, you're not going to get very far down the field into a pass pattern. So that release technique is extremely important for those receivers. You'll notice now that receivers are being coached in the same techniques that defensive linemen are. Defensive linemen are taught to use their hands versus pass protectors. They're taught to swat the elbow and swim through, or club and rip through, and use those kind of escape mechanisms. Well, receivers need to do the same thing. They need to use the same techniques that defensive linemen use to get off the line of scrimmage. They might have to swim, they might have to head fake, they might have to club, they might have to swat with their hands. Any technique those defensive line guys are teaching, that's good for those receiver coaches to know too. Okay, the next drill is what we call patterns, and simply put, it's just running their basic pass patterns. Now, we may or may not include the football in this drill. We like to put cones down on the field and have the players concentrate just on running the route. And if they're running an 18-yard dig route where they have to break to the post at 12 yards and then break across the middle at 18, we'll put a cone down at 12 yards and we'll put a cone down at 18. And we want them to get the feel of precise route running. We don't want to have the players breaking an out route at 16 yards when they're supposed to break it at 14, or at 8 yards when they're supposed to break it at 12. You see that constantly, and I hear TV announcers constantly say, well, geez, it was 3rd and 8, and the guy ran a 7-yard route. Why did he do that? Well, to me, that comes from practice. If you're not practicing specific routes, then those kinds of things happen during a game and they cost you. Might cost you a first down and possession of the football in a critical time of the game. So that's very important for us to learn how to run pass patterns correctly. Next is ball drills. And here's where we work on nothing more than our hands, where we have a number of different ball drills like probably all coaches do, concentration type drills, one-hand catch drills, gauntlet drills, distraction drills, you name it, we've got it, and they're all good drills, okay? And that's where we're working on just the pure mechanics of actually catching the ball, tucking it away, and sprinting up the field after the catch. Next, the last two things that you see on the receiver's pass or practice plan are passing with the backs, and again, this is the period where the ends will go down, work with the running backs and the quarterbacks, and they're going to throw routes versus air. And then finally, four-corner drill, which is where the quarterbacks and the receivers and some of the running backs will go down and work one-on-one pass patterns against the defensive backs in man-to-man coverage. And that's the ends as you look at their practice plan. And last but not least, we have our offensive linemen who start out with shoulder skills and routine period, just like the running backs and the ends. When that period is over now, we have a lot of time for our linemen to work on their blocking techniques. First of all, we start with individual blocks, and these are one-on-one blocks. It's me versus him. We're going to work on a gap block, a down block, an on block, a reach block, a fire block, anything where we have to block the man right in front of us or one man removed from us, and it's us against him, one-on-one. Those are individual blocks. I will show you all those as we go through the plan. Next is the combination blocks. Combination blocks can be 2-on-2, 3-on-3, those kinds of things, and now we're going to work with a partner and block 2 people or 3 people. Next is a drill we call sweep drill, and this is a drill where everybody on our offensive line, centers, guards, tackles, they all learn the guard techniques for sweep. Okay, so each one of them is going to practice the pulling technique for our sweep. You could put your waggle drill in here because the waggle drill is set up just like the sweep drill, but we do save waggle drill for later in the practice plan when we can get one of the quarterbacks to come down and do waggle drill with us. But either way, no matter where you put the waggle drill, it's set up like the sweep drill. And again, everybody on the offensive line is taught the guard techniques for pulling and logging and pulling and walling off on our waggle play. Next, we have pass pro drills for our offensive linemen. They have to get time where they work on just purely pass protection technique. And those are the drills done in pass pro period. And then the last drill here for the offensive lineman, or next to the last on this list, is assignment period. And this is where we have the offensive line coach set up the defense in the spacing that they're going to see that particular week and work on his offensive line blocking assignments rapid fire over and over again. Now, this may be done against the defense, it might be done against a scout team, or it might be done against the offensive line coach's backups holding bags. But we're going to have an assignment period in every practice plan so that those offensive linemen are assignment sharp. If there's a team that runs 3 or 4 different defensive fronts during a game, then we're going to work 3 or 4 days that week on those different fronts, and we're going to be sharpened up on our assignments versus those fronts. Well, that concludes tape 1, and there is a lot more to go on the wing tee practice plan, so tape 2 will continue with the wing tee practice plan right where we left off.